When the Ford Model A was introduced in late 1927 as the successor to the legendary Model T, it marked far more than the release of a new automobile. It represented a generational transition in industrial philosophy, mechanical design, and the relationship between the American people and their machines. After producing over 15 million Model Ts, Henry Ford faced a world that was changing faster than his once revolutionary car could keep up with. The Model A was therefore conceived as both a response to a rapidly modernizing society and as a symbol that American engineering could combine mass production with refinement, safety, and style. For the first time since Ford had transformed the automobile into a democratic product, he would now have to prove that the American car could also stand as a technological and cultural benchmark across the globe. By the mid-1920s, the Model T was losing ground. Though still inexpensive and reliable, it was outdated in design and operation. Competitors such as Chevrolet and Dodge were offering cars with electric starters, better suspensions, and more comfortable interiors. The American public was growing wealthier, more urban, and increasingly demanding of comfort and sophistication. Henry Ford, known for his stubbornness, resisted replacing the T for as long as possible. But even he could see the sales curve flattening, and by 1926 he made the difficult decision to halt production of the car that had made him famous. The Model A would be the car to reinvent Ford Motor Company for a new era of modern motoring. Development began secretly at the Highland Park and Rouge plants, where a new generation of engineers, including Henry's son Edsel Ford, played a crucial role. Edsel was far more attuned to aesthetics and comfort than his father, and he pushed for a car that would not only be mechanically reliable but also visually elegant and comfortable to drive. The Model A would thus merge Henry's obsession with simplicity and Edsel's sense of refinement. It was to be a car for the masses, but one that made the masses feel sophisticated. Technically, the Model A represented a leap forward from the Model T's primitive design. It featured a 201 cubic inch, 3.3-liter, L-head four-cylinder engine capable of producing 40 horsepower at 2,200 revolutions per minute, almost twice the power of the Model T. This allowed the car to reach speeds up to 65 miles per hour, a remarkable figure for its time. The engine block and head were made of cast iron, with a detachable cylinder head that simplified maintenance, an innovation compared to the T's integrated construction. It used a Zenith downdraft carburetor, providing smoother fuel delivery and better throttle response. The lubrication system employed a combination of gravity and splash oiling, typical of the era, yet carefully engineered to ensure reliability under rough road conditions. Equally revolutionary was the shift to a conventional 3-speed sliding gear transmission with a single-plate dry clutch, replacing the Model T's planetary gearbox. This made the Model A easier to drive for anyone accustomed to modern control layouts. The car used a single-foot clutch, a floor-mounted gearshift, and conventional pedals for the brake and accelerator, a pattern that would become universal in automotive design. For the first time in a Ford, mechanical sophistication was combined with intuitive operation, allowing millions of new drivers to feel at home behind the wheel. The Model A's chassis was also a triumph of functional design. It featured a robust ladder-type steel frame with crossmembers that provided rigidity and reduced vibrations. The suspension system remained simple yet effective, using a transverse semi-elliptic leaf spring both front and rear, with mechanical shock absorbers optional on later models. The mechanical drum brakes, operated by rods rather than cables or hydraulics, were a huge improvement over the Model T's transmission brake and offered reliable stopping power. This shift toward four-wheel braking reflected the growing concern for safety among American motorists. Aesthetically, the car was a revelation. Edsel Ford's influence could be seen in the clean lines, elegant radiator shell, and proportioned fenders. The Model A was offered in multiple body styles, from the two-door roadster and coupe to the luxurious four-door town sedan and phaeton. Customers could choose from a range of factory colors, a novelty in an age when the Model T had famously been available in any color, so long as it's black. Interiors featured mohair upholstery, polished metal trim, and optional glass windows that could be raised or lowered by crank mechanisms. For many first-time buyers, stepping into a Model A felt like entering a modern world of comfort and refinement. The electrical system of the Model A also marked progress. It used a 6-volt battery and generator setup, providing consistent power to electric lights, ignition, and the optional electric horn. The engine was started by an electric motor rather than the hand crank that had terrorized so many early motorists. A simple but effective dashboard layout included an ammeter, speedometer, and fuel gauge, all mounted in a central cluster above the steering column. The gas tank itself was positioned behind the dashboard, gravity feeding the carburetor, a configuration that simplified plumbing but required careful sealing to avoid fumes inside the cabin. The cooling system employed a belt-driven water pump, circulating coolant through the engine block and the front-mounted radiator. The fan was mechanically driven and positioned to ensure airflow even at low speeds, essential for long climbs or city traffic. The Model A's radiator shell, shaped in nickel or stainless steel on higher trims, became an icon of early Ford design, and the distinctive blue oval badge symbolized not just a brand but the spirit of modern America on wheels. When the Model A debuted on December 2, 1927, it created a sensation. Newspapers described crowds lining up outside Ford dealerships, some sleeping overnight to catch a glimpse of the new car. The public's enthusiasm was enormous, and within a week, over 400,000 orders were placed. Production began ramping up at the massive Rouge complex in Michigan, which was the largest industrial facility in the world, capable of turning raw iron ore into finished cars in a matter of days. The Model A's assembly process continued Ford's legacy of efficiency but with greater flexibility, as multiple body types and colors required new logistics and assembly techniques. Pricing was another key factor in the Model A's success. The standard Roadster sold for about $385, while the more luxurious town car could exceed $1,400, allowing Ford to cater to a broader segment of the population. The strategy proved genius. The Model A appealed equally to working-class Americans seeking reliable transportation and to middle-class families looking for prestige and comfort. Ford's vast network of dealerships and parts suppliers ensured that maintenance and service were easy, reinforcing the brand's reputation for practicality and dependability. The Model A's global impact was also profound. Ford established assembly plants in Europe, South America, and Asia, bringing American automotive engineering to the world. In England, the car was produced as the Ford Model A Tudor and gained popularity among small businessmen. In Germany, it symbolized American industrial might and influenced early European mass production methods. In Latin America, the Model A became a symbol of progress, often used as taxis, police vehicles, or rural transports. Wherever it went, it carried the message that the automobile was no longer a luxury for the few but a tool of everyday life. Mechanically, the Model A was engineered for durability. Its forged steel crankshaft, with three main bearings, provided strength and balance, while aluminum pistons reduced weight and improved efficiency. The compression ratio of 4.22 to 1 might seem low by modern standards, but it was ideal for the low-octane fuels of the era and contributed to the engine's longevity. The ignition system relied on a simple breaker point distributor, adjustable timing lever on the steering column, and a coil providing the necessary voltage to the spark plugs. This straightforward yet robust design meant that the Model A could be maintained almost anywhere in the world, often with basic tools. Another technical innovation was the use of safety glass in the windshield, a first for Ford vehicles. This demonstrated a growing awareness of driver and passenger protection. The inclusion of bumpers, standard after 1928, and stronger steel bodies also reflected the company's adaptation to new road safety standards. The Model A was thus not only a commercial product but a step in the evolution of automotive safety. As production expanded through 1928 and 1929, the Model A became a common sight across America's growing road network. It connected rural and urban communities, giving mobility to millions. Families could travel greater distances for work or leisure, small towns saw their economies expand with improved transport, and the very idea of Sunday drives became part of the American cultural fabric. For many, the Model A represented independence, the ability to move freely, and the promise of progress, ideals that defined the United States in the late 1920s. However, beneath the success lay challenges. The Great Depression of 1929 struck at the height of the Model A's popularity. Ford's leadership had to adapt to a collapsing economy and a shrinking market. Yet even in those years of hardship, the Model A's simplicity and reliability made it invaluable. Many owners kept their cars running through careful maintenance, and Ford's vast supply chain of parts and service stations helped sustain communities. For some families, the Model A was more than a car, it was a lifeline that enabled them to survive economic catastrophe. By the end of 1931, more than 4 million Model As had been produced. It was replaced in 1932 by the Ford V8, which introduced a new era of affordable power. Yet the Model A's legacy endured. It had bridged the gap between the primitive simplicity of early motoring and the refined practicality of the modern automobile. It proved that American industry could adapt, innovate, and deliver products that inspired confidence worldwide. The Model A was, in many ways, the car that made people believe not just in Ford but in the automobile as a symbol of progress and resilience. As the 1930s began, the Ford Model A had already earned its place as one of the most influential cars in automotive history. Yet its importance did not rest merely on production numbers or sales figures. The Model A had redefined what a car could mean to society. It was both a tool and a symbol, a bridge between the primitive automobiles of the early century and the sleek, powerful machines that would dominate the roads in decades to come. Technically, it represented a massive leap forward in mechanical sophistication, and culturally, it became a mirror of the American spirit of endurance and ingenuity during one of the most difficult economic periods in history. Even as the Great Depression devastated industries and banks across the nation, the Model A continued to roll off Ford's production lines, though in decreasing numbers. Between 1928 and 1931, more than 4.8 million units were built in a variety of body styles. Each year brought small but meaningful improvements to design, engineering, and comfort. For example, in 1930 the car's radiator shell was redesigned with a more refined curve, and the fenders were widened for a more modern appearance. Mechanical upgrades such as improved brake linkages, stronger axles, and reinforced clutch housings ensured that the car kept pace with increasing expectations of reliability. Henry Ford's philosophy of constant refinement within the limits of simplicity remained evident throughout the production run. The range of body styles offered by the Model A was one of its strengths. The basic Tudor and four-door sedans appealed to families, while the sporty Roadster and Coupe attracted younger drivers. Commercial variants such as the pickup and panel delivery models extended Ford's reach into the small business and agricultural markets. Special editions like the Deluxe Phaeton and Victoria were aimed at middle-class buyers seeking a touch of luxury. This diversity of options allowed Ford to serve nearly every segment of the automotive market while maintaining a shared mechanical foundation, an approach that influenced the entire industry for decades. At the heart of every Model A was the same robust four-cylinder engine, whose simplicity belied its excellence. Though producing only 40 horsepower, it was remarkably smooth and dependable. Its long-stroke design produced generous torque at low RPM, making it ideal for unpaved roads and heavy loads. Farmers used the engine to power machinery, and small workshops even adapted it for stationary use. Its cooling and lubrication systems were so effective that many engines survived hundreds of thousands of miles with minimal maintenance. This mechanical endurance made the Model A not just a car but a foundation upon which countless other machines were built. In engineering circles, the Model A was admired for its balanced combination of cost, strength, and performance. The cast-iron engine block, three-bearing crankshaft, and forged connecting rods reflected Ford's obsession with durability. Every major component could be serviced or replaced with simple tools. The gearbox, though unsynchronized, became a model of precision for its time, allowing skilled drivers to master the art of double-clutching with ease. The solid rear axle, carried by a torque tube and radius rods, ensured smooth power delivery and resistance to wear. The entire design followed the logic of industrial minimalism. Nothing was added that did not serve a clear purpose. Even the car's electrical and ignition systems were designed with field serviceability in mind. The Model A's 6-volt generator used a cutout relay to prevent overcharging, and the ignition timing could be adjusted manually by a small lever on the steering column. This simple yet elegant system gave drivers direct control over the engine's efficiency, especially when climbing hills or starting in cold weather. It also embodied the sense of mechanical intimacy that characterized early motoring, the feeling that the driver and the machine worked together as one. The interior of the Model A was equally well thought out. Ford's engineers designed the cabin to maximize space without unnecessary complexity. The seats were upholstered in high-quality mohair or leatherette, depending on trim level, and the doors featured sturdy wood framing covered in sheet metal. The windshield could be tilted outward for ventilation, and the cabin offered generous visibility in all directions, a luxury compared to many contemporary cars. The dashboard instruments were clustered centrally, with a large speedometer flanked by fuel and amperage gauges. Every control, from the choke knob to the spark advance lever, was logically placed for the driver's convenience. While the Model A was undeniably American in its conception, its global influence was unprecedented. Ford had established assembly plants in England, Dagenham, Canada, Windsor, Argentina, Buenos Aires, Germany, Cologne, and even in the Soviet Union under the GAZ partnership. In each country, the Model A was slightly adapted to local needs. European versions often featured smaller headlights, narrower fenders, or metric instruments, while South American variants emphasized ruggedness and ease of maintenance. In the Soviet Union, the Model A's design became the basis for the GAZ-A, the first mass-produced car in Russian history. It was built under license at the Gorky automobile plant, symbolizing how American industrial know-how could be transplanted across continents. The Model A's adaptability extended to motorsports and innovation. Private owners and mechanics quickly realized the car's potential for modification. The engine responded well to tuning. Higher compression heads, dual carburetors, and custom exhausts could transform the humble Ford into a capable racing machine. In the early days of hot rodding, during the 1940s and 1950s, the Model A's chassis became a favorite among enthusiasts for its simplicity and availability. Its strong frame and lightweight body lent themselves perfectly to customization, and countless A-bones, as they were affectionately called, roared across dry lake beds in California. This phenomenon linked the Model A to an entirely new generation of car culture, long after its production had ceased. From a mechanical standpoint, the Model A also laid the groundwork for the development of Ford's later flathead V8. Many of the design principles, low-cost casting, standardized components, and emphasis on torque, were carried over to the V8 introduced in 1932. The Model A thus served as the final evolutionary step in Ford's four-cylinder lineage before the dawn of affordable eight-cylinder power. It bridged the gap between the crude simplicity of the Model T and the mechanical sophistication that would define mid-century automobiles. By the time production ended in March 1932, Ford had built approximately 4,858,000 Model As in total. The car's discontinuation was not due to obsolescence, but rather to Ford's relentless push toward innovation. The new V8 engine represented another revolution, but it was the Model A that had laid the technological and cultural foundation for its success. Even after production stopped, Model As remained ubiquitous on American roads. Many were converted into farm vehicles, makeshift trucks, or even improvised tractors during the Depression years. Their mechanical ruggedness allowed them to survive where more delicate cars failed. In the decades that followed, the Ford Model A became one of the most beloved collector cars in the world. Its combination of simplicity, beauty, and mechanical honesty appealed to hobbyists and restorers alike. Clubs dedicated to the preservation of the Model A sprang up across the United States, Europe, and Australia. The Model A Ford Club of America, founded in 1957, and the Model A Restorers Club, established in 1952, became pillars of vintage car culture. Enthusiasts devoted themselves to authenticity, sourcing original parts and maintaining the cars as they were built nearly a century ago. The abundance of surviving vehicles, thanks to Ford's vast production numbers and durable engineering, made restoration feasible for generations of fans. Technically, restoring a Model A offers valuable insight into early automotive engineering. The car's straightforward mechanics allow even amateur restorers to disassemble, rebuild, and reassemble the engine, gearbox, and chassis. The lubrication system, mechanical brakes, and ignition components provide a living classroom in mechanical principles that define the era. For historians and engineers, the Model A stands as a time capsule of industrial design philosophy, a balance between craftsmanship and automation, between human ingenuity and mechanical precision. From a design perspective, the Model A also influenced decades of automotive aesthetics. Its harmonious proportions, upright stance, and symmetrical grille design set a template for early 1930s styling. Many later cars borrowed its balanced lines and practical elegance. The idea that a mass-produced car could also be beautiful was not self-evident before the Model A. Edsel Ford's emphasis on proportion and form opened the door for the concept of styling as a distinct discipline within automotive manufacturing. In this sense, the Model A was not only an engineering triumph but a work of industrial art. The car's social and cultural impact cannot be overstated. In small towns and large cities alike, the Model A became a fixture of everyday life. It carried farmers to markets, doctors to patients, and children to school. It served as a taxi, delivery van, or even makeshift ambulance. In movies and photographs of the era, the Model A appears as a silent witness to an age of transformation, an age when America learned to move at the speed of the machine. During the darkest years of the Depression, the sight of a running Model A symbolized hope, proof that resilience and practicality could overcome hardship. Even as newer models emerged, the affection for the Model A never faded. During World War II, when automobile production ceased and gasoline was rationed, many Model As returned to service as essential vehicles. Their ability to run on minimal maintenance and low-quality fuel made them invaluable. Soldiers returning from the war often recalled their family's Model A as the first car they ever drove. In this way, the car became woven into the collective memory of an entire generation. Today, the Ford Model A occupies a unique place in automotive history. It is both a collector's treasure and a cultural icon, bridging the gap between two eras of mechanical thought. Its enduring popularity speaks not only to nostalgia but to the timelessness of its design. Modern restorations often include subtle upgrades, hydraulic brakes, overdrive transmissions, or modern bearings, yet the heart of the machine remains unchanged. The rhythmic chug of the four-cylinder engine, the firm feel of the mechanical brake pedal, and the faint scent of oil and metal evoke a time when cars were direct extensions of human intention. Beyond its mechanical legacy, the Model A represents a philosophy of design that continues to inspire engineers. It demonstrated that mass production did not have to mean mediocrity, that a car could be both affordable and well-made. In an age when the automobile industry was finding its identity, the Model A showed that the principles of quality, simplicity, and accessibility could coexist. It helped establish the standards by which future generations of cars would be judged: reliability, functionality, and emotional connection. In retrospect, the Ford Model A's greatest achievement may not have been its technical features or sales records, but its ability to make people believe in progress again. At a time when the world was recovering from war, embracing modernity, and facing economic despair, the Model A represented faith in the future. It was a tangible expression of the idea that technology could serve humanity, that machines could enrich rather than dominate life. It embodied the optimism that defined early 20th century America, the belief that with enough determination, innovation, and courage, even the simplest engine could drive an entire civilization forward. More than 9 decades after its debut, the Ford Model A remains an enduring testament to that belief. Its silhouette, with its upright grille and rounded fenders, still evokes admiration. Its sound, the steady pulse of its 4 cylinders, speaks of a time when driving was a mechanical dialogue between man and machine. To restore or drive a Model A today is not merely to relive history, it is to experience the essence of an era when the automobile was new, and the world was learning to believe in its promise. The Model A was, and remains, a cornerstone of the American automotive identity. It was the car that reconnected innovation with humanity, production with passion, and technology with trust. It was the car that made the world believe, not only in Ford, not only in Detroit, but in the very idea of the automobile as a tool for freedom and progress. Through its engine, its steel, and its spirit, the Ford Model A did more than carry people from one place to another. It carried a nation, and, in time, the world, into the modern age of mobility.